This is a big grille, a vast acreage of silver slats, a gaping maw but still wrought in a shape synonymous with a particular brand. And it's humongous for a reason, because what's behind it demands a lot of air, because this is now the most powerful luxury SUV, the Aston Martin DBX 707.
Now, as you might imagine, those numbers do have meaning, because under the bonnet is a 4-litre twin-turbo V8, which we will come back to in a minute, but it puts out 707 PS, metric horsepower, 697 brake horsepower. That's up 157 brake horsepower of the standard DBX, and crucially, it's up over every other performance SUV as well, more than a Lamborghini Urus, which puts out 650 PS. Torque, that's up as well, up to 900 Newton meters, so 664 pounds-foot of torque, produced at 2,800 RPM. That's slightly higher than before in the standard DBX, but it's 200 Newton meters more than in the DBX overall. And the power, that 707 PS, is produced at an identical 6,000 RPM to the standard DBX's output, which is, well, 157 brake horsepower lower. How's it producing all that? Well, it's all to do with, obviously, the 4-litre twin-turbocharged engine underneath this bonnet. And yes, it is derived from the engine in the standard DBX, but this is an engine that is bespoke to Aston Martin now in this configuration, so you won't find it anywhere else. You won't find it on any AMGs. It's got larger ball-bearing turbos sitting obviously in that hot V. It also, as I kind of mentioned in the intro, it has an awful lot more cooling in here. It's got double radiators both sides on here, double stacked on each side, and yeah, it is an enormous grille, isn't it? This colour, by the way, plasma blue, very blue-blooded.
Talking of people of importance, it's worth mentioning Ralph Illenberger. He was previously in the engine department at AMG, but he was brought to Aston by Tobias Moers at the end of 2020 with the aim of making Aston's drivetrains more bespoke to the brand. We saw the first hints of his influence with the revised Valhalla, but this is the first time we're seeing it in a production vehicle. Talking of the drivetrain, this still has the 9-speed auto, but it now has a wet plate clutch and shift times that are twice as fast as those in the standard DBX. There is also a new manual mode to allow the driver full control of the gearbox.
Now let's talk about the suspension, because obviously that's been uprated as well, because as we know, power is nothing without control, and it is wearing Pirellis. And actually it's probably worth talking about the tyres a little bit, because we've seen that Tobias Moers is not enamoured of fitting sort of particularly overtly performance orientated tyres to cars. We saw in the Vantage F1 edition, he didn't want Cup 2 tyres being fitted to that to extract the performance. He wanted it to come from elsewhere within the car. Anyway, these are 23s, comes on 22s as standard, and I think there will be a specific design of 23s sort of perhaps later on down the line. Suspension though, we've still got the 3-chamber air suspension. The top mounts for the dampers, 55% stiffer in this at the front. They've also tweaked compression and rebound for the dampers in this. So 20% stiffer in compression at the front and 15% stiffer in compression at the rear. And in rebound it's 10% and 5% as well. In here we have got huge 420mm carbon ceramic brakes, 390mm at the rear as well, and those come as standard. Underneath the car there's a new 4mm shear panel to help torsional stiffness, although not a huge amount, and we're talking 1.3% I think it said in the press pack, but I suppose every little helps. This obviously has the 48 volt anti-roll system as well, and that's quite interesting. I say it's increased the torque capacity by up to 50%, but they've done it in such a way that it will make the car sort of more dynamic and more sort of rear biased in the way that it does it. It's one of those things I can't quite get my head around it at the moment, but I think hopefully all will become clear when we get to drive this. Talking of steering, new E-Pass steering calibration as well, so that's meant to feel sort of smooth and more linear, but also then when you add lock, it's going to give a little bit sort of better feedback in terms of the grip. So I look forward to seeing what that's like.
The steering wheel itself is the sport leather item as standard, but a part Alcantara wheel is an option. The interior as a whole has the Accelerate Sport environment, which means a combination of leather and Alcantara, and you can also have duotone colours if you wish. A full semi-aniline leather interior called Inspire Sport is an option. Sport Plus front seats are standard for the 707, albeit with the comfort items remaining an option, and all except the centre rear seat will be both heated and ventilated. Dark chrome jewellery and piano black veneer is the standard vibe on the dash and centre console. Talking of which, there is a new rotary drive mode selector, and there is also now a separate button for the sports exhaust system.
That means you can increase or decrease the sound of the standard quad exit sports exhaust to your heart's content, regardless of which drive mode you're in. Now, elsewhere around the back here, well, it's kind of the most obvious thing's not, in fact, the sort of added extra on the rear wing up here, which is in carbon on this car. It is the, well, enormous rear diffuser. It's massive, this sort of lip that mimics the boot lid up there. I'm not sure it's the sort of the prettiest item, but it certainly looks as though it should be, well, very helpful to the aerodynamics with its sort of biplane element there.
What effect it will have on the aerodynamics when you add a 4-berth Coachman Lusso 2 or trailer a race car, I have no idea. But you will be able to do that because you can still fit a deployable tow bar to the 707. Incidentally, what other connections do you make when you hear the numbers 707? Boeing's first commercial jetliner? A missing piece in the Peugeot puzzle? Or perhaps, as it's an Aston, you make the leap to 007? Let us know in the comments down below.
Other things to talk about around the back here, we've got these new vents on the side here, which, yes, I can see through them, so they do look as though they are functional, not just there for decoration. While we're around the back of the car, I should have actually, of course, mentioned the new E-Diff, or the recalibrated E-Diff, which has a shorter final drive ratio, 7% shorter down to 3.27, and it's also got 7% greater locking on it, all to add a bit more dynamism to the car. Overall, the performance figures, well, 193 miles an hour, that depends slightly which tyres you fit in terms of all seasons and things like that. And 0 to 62 at the moment, they're aiming for 3.6 seconds or possibly even slightly quicker, which, well, is quick enough, I think, for something like this. In terms of price, well, they're looking at about a 20% uplift. It's going to be around about £180,000, which is an awful lot of money. But then it was already an expensive car. And as good as the DBX has been to drive so far, and it has been very good, arguably the best SUV to drive, it actually hasn't stood out perhaps as much, given it is an expensive car. Now, however, with the 707, it takes the Lamborghini Urus's crown. It is the most powerful, and I think people buying this sort of car want the top of the tree. So actually, this more expensive DBX, well, I think it could become the most popular DBX as well.
Hello everyone, thank you very much indeed for watching that. I've subsequently discovered that the 0 to 62 mile an hour time is going to be 3.3 seconds. So there we go. If you'd like to see me try and attempt that at some point in the future, then just hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and perhaps a little bell notification, or give the video a thumbs up. Thank you very much indeed for watching. See you next time.